Welcome to Backboard Banter on the board with your host Matt Middleton and Kevin Rayner, where the banter's as ferocious as Jay Norville taking shots at Deion Sanders. This man's insane. You can't say that about a man. Like the comments, like I get it, but mind your own business. Deion's gonna do what Deion's gonna do, and you know what? He's a legend, and he is a style icon in the U.S. So
Just
yeah,
just
keep it to
Colorado.
yourself, okay?
Just Colorado rivalry right here, and Deion's 2-0 right now. So somebody's got to be taking some shots at him because the other teams aren't doing it against his team so far. So we'll see if he can keep it going. All that we know is that the conversation is going to continue. We know that Deion's eventually going to fire back. We know it.
Well, he already kind of did today. He was talking to his team about how they decided to take it personal, and now he's gonna, just shove it down their throats because he's beat two ranked teams like Colorado, a team that was not even on anybody's radar, probably going to be. I think they might even make the NCAA playoffs, but what do I know about college football? Probably nothing. So
We will see. We will see, right?
yeah, I mean, it's kind of feeling that way with the NFL lately, man. I mean, my upset alert, the Pittsburgh Steelers over San Francisco was a nightmare. Brock Purdy looked so good. That defense absolutely destroyed the Steelers' offensive line, giving Kenny Pickett no time to throw. And yeah, it was just a brutal week for me and my fantasy team. It was one of the worst weeks I've ever had, I think, personally.
Brutal week all around, but hey, at least you weren't a Giants fan, all right? A little worse for those guys over there, but this guy over here has the one shining moment of the week, somehow squeaking out that win, 21-20. If anyone who doesn't know, the football take god over here returning to form means I'm going to fall flat on my face next week. Let's be honest here.
Man, honestly, like that game hurt me so much. Kadarius Toney, why did I play him? Why did I put him in my starting lineup? I was like, Travis Kelsey's out, all those targets.
It's my fault.
Nah, let's block an interception into their hands so they can go for a pick six. Sick. Let's drop every third down conversion that's thrown our way. Sick. Man was just brutal. And if I'm just gonna take it back to that New York Giants comment for a second. That's Daniel Jones' first game as a $40 million quarterback. That's what they paid $40 million for. I mean,
Ouch.
granted, that defense looks sick, but I mean, you got to do something, Daniel. Do something.
There's two sides of the football for a reason, but yeah, that tough. Shout out to my boy Johnny. I know that he was struggling for the Giants with that loss last week, but that's football. Sometimes the season starts and you get slapped in the mouth. I mean, should we talk about Jets fans? 4 snaps, Aaron Rodgers, rest in peace. Like pain for what was supposed to be a
Bro.
Super Bowl season.
They have him run out on Monday Night Football. It's the standalone game. He's got the U.S. flag in hand. The crowd's just going absolutely nuts at MetLife Stadium. And 4 plays into it, the man is out for the season.
Oh,
And
okay.
I heard when I heard it was an ankle injury, I was like trying to rewatch the play, thinking to myself like he didn't look like he got his ankle twisted. Like it
Yeah.
didn't look like an ankle injury. And yeah, when you watch it really closely in slow mo, you can see it just like Kevin Durant's, man. Like that
Yeah.
calf pops up. You can see it like the tendon almost shoot up, and yeah, just really sad. I feel for him and his teammates. I know Garrett Wilson really thought that they could do something special, but it's a tough way to start the season for sure. But Zach Wilson, number 2 pick, learned from osmosis by being around Aaron Rodgers. Maybe he's decent. Didn't show it, but they still won that game.
The shining moment through all of the mud is getting that victory. And yeah, who knows, man, this could be his moment. The chips are stacked against the kid, but he could come out and maybe Rodgers can be that bench QB for direct him through all the plays, winning time style, just like go to this spot. I can imagine Rodgers in the sideline just making it all happen. But rough for the Jets right now.
Yeah, man. I think all the memes of like those like shocked faces. It's like Zach Wilson when they're like, "You're going in, kid." Like me? Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
But that defense was so legit, man, that they made Josh Allen look horrendous. But I mean, that is kind of like Josh Allen's MO. It's like either he's like down here or up here.
Yeah.
There's very little like in between consistency for this man, but that's okay. I bet you he has a stellar game this week. Like whoever the Buffalo Bills are playing, man, I do not want to take them on any kind of, if you're in a survivor pool or you're betting the games, just take Buffalo. Just take
Just,
Buffalo.
just do it. He's a roller coaster ride. We're about to be at the top. Week 3, yeah, we can return to this week 3, but right now, stay away.
Yeah, sometimes he has back to back good weeks or back to back bad weeks, but I'm predicting a good one this one. I think he was pretty embarrassed about losing that game like that, and yeah, poor man. Like just kind of sucks. Though the kid, I forget his name for the Jets, the cornerback, he had a contract where he would get a $250,000 bonus if he had 3 interceptions in the season. One game, 3 interceptions, 250K, one
Oh
game. Let's
man,
go. Good for him.
I'm sure the bottle service girls at the club that night were living it. He was a happy man, I'm sure. Oh man.
Yeah, who knows, man? I feel like on a Monday you can't really go out too much,
Yeah, you cannot. There's always something that's open. Let's be honest. But
especially in New York. Fair
exactly,
enough.
exactly. So
Oh man, anything else you want to talk about in the NFL in week one that caught your eye or
no, I mean that was pretty much the majority of it. I'm getting the in the 1 year side of the stream's constant YouTube content of NFL right now because everybody's living for it. It's back, baby. Everyone's loving the NFL season.
well, man, we're in that in between where like, baseball's ending, sports like real good sports are starting back up again, NFL, basketball, NHL. And so like it's that like weird time and the NFL is really just dominating that conversation. I think like one of the weirdest things for me was Baker Mayfield beating Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings. Like,
True.
great, there goes my Super Bowl pick. Man, I'm telling you, I don't think I've been like this wrong about the NFL in a really, really long time. It feeling like a freaky year, and my boy Lamar not playing well. Like 8 points, man, 8 points.
It,
You're Lamar Jackson. Go do something,
it just goes to show, Matt. You don't have as much time for your research. You're a married man with a kid on the way. You're thinking about other things. You ain't got as much time for football, so you're becoming less of the stat king and more of the football enjoyer at this point in time.
bro. No, I'll always be the stat king. You know that.
Valid. I'll
And
give you
that's
that.
why I'm going to tell you about the games of the week this week, man. I mean, besides tonight's game, Vikings Eagle, I think that's going to be a banger game. Vikings have a chance to bounce back, but it could also be a blowout. But the Eagles didn't look great against the New England Patriots in week one. I don't expect that to continue. Jalen Hurts is too good of a quarterback and too good of a
Yeah.
leader. Works way too hard. So I'm interested to see what kind of happens tonight. But I mean, the big games for me is can Miami still look as good as they did against the Chargers against a real coach and a real defense
True.
in the New England Patriots? And if anybody can do anything to slow them down, it's Bill Belichick. He
Yeah.
actually has never beaten Tua Tagovailoa into his career,
Wow.
but has always been able to kind of hold them down. Like Tua averages like 3 TDs, 2 picks, and like 188 yards in those games. So like not the 466 that he threw up in week one, not even close, right? So
Shout out
we'll
to
see.
Tua. Shout out to Tua for hearing Matt losing a little bit of faith in him and him going, nah, watch what I can do.
Bro, I've been so up and down on Tua, but the guy's been he's looked great already through week one, and Mac Jones showed some signs of life with an actual offensive coordinator calling plays. So
Love
Mac
it.
Jones had a good rookie season. Maybe they can figure something out. I'm really interested to see what happens in that game. I really like the San Francisco Rams game because I think the 49ers versus the Rams is going to be that's a good battle.
Yeah.
McVay versus Kyle Shanahan. The 49ers coming off that like raffle stomp of the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Rams, they jobbed Seattle, man. Like
Yeah.
it was not a close game. And if you had asked me like, right before the game, I would have easily taken Seattle. But they had some, young players step up. Matthew Stafford, even without Cooper Cup, was able
Yeah.
to, get the ball downfield and like Seattle did not look good, and man, so I'm excited to see that battle. I'm pretty sure the 49ers should roll them again. Brock Purdy, some people calling him top 10 quarterback, some people not. I think he's definitely like fighting for it right now.
Yeah.
Not many players have had a better stretch over his starting career than he has. Like if you like since week 9 or 8, whenever he started last year, like
Hmm.
how many quarterbacks have had this many touchdowns to interception, this kind of rating, this kind of yardage? I bet you he's like top 4, top 3 in like all stats. So
He's just got to
top
keep it
10.
up. You just got to keep it up, and he'll convince people eventually, right?
Yeah. Man, Mr. Irrelevant versus the first overall pick. That's the first time this has ever happened at a quarterback battle. So
Okay.
that's kind of cool too. Like
Yeah.
that's yeah, it's a good added layer to the game. And then you got the King and Patrick Mahomes versus the Prince and Trevor Lawrence. I'm really excited to see that
Yeah.
game. I think, Trevor Lawrence looked okay in week 1, but the Colts divisional matchup,
Yep.
Anthony Richardson actually played so well for what I was expecting. Like I was expecting a raw kid out of Florida, but he like is definitely an elite athlete and showed up on Sunday. The coach schemed up some nice plays for him. And I like Trevor Lawrence's recommendation to him. He's like, you made some great plays out there, bud, but like try to protect yourself. The NFL is a little bit different than college football. Like those hits start to stack up
Yeah.
pretty quick. So
Absolutely. It'd be pretty fire for him though if he can take down Mahomes and have watch the Chiefs go to an 0-2 start to the season. That would be pretty sweet.
yeah, and if Travis Kelsey isn't back, like they have a good chance because again, Kadarius Tony on the IR, man, with broken hands. Doesn't have a broken bone in his hands, but dang, they're non-existent, man. They are broken.
Poor guy catching L's, but at this rate, he's probably gonna have another highlight reel video next week. And highlights, low
Yo,
lights. What are we talking about?
watch him go off for like 120 yards and like 2 touchdowns, and me just like regret my decision of cutting him from the fantasy.
You know what? Sometimes it is what it is, my guy. And at the end of the day, if he does that, what a turnaround that would be for sure.
Yeah, and especially because like week 1 in like the NFL, like anybody who knows anything about the NFL, like week 1 is a liar. Some teams look great, some teams look bad,
Yeah.
and like it's just not who you are. Like you look at Cincinnati losing, I think it was like 20 something to 3 to the Cleveland Browns. But it was a rainy game. Joe Burrow's missed the whole preseason,
Yep.
calf injury. So I expect them to do pretty well against Baltimore, but Lamar didn't look great against like what should have been an easy blowout win in Houston. Again, 8 points. Like, buddy, you're playing Houston. Like that was easily a 20 plus point game for me, but he did not deliver. So we'll see if he can come up against Cincy. Because that's a really good divisional game. And then I think like the last one is Seattle versus Detroit. Detroit coming off that huge game against Kansas City,
Yep.
really massive win. Can they keep it going? And Seattle, can you like put it back on track? Geno Smith had like a really hot start to last season, but he like over his last like 9 games, he's really teetered off. I think teams, have got their film back on him, are
Yeah.
watching him again, are, game planning specifically for him. Whereas in the first couple of weeks, he surprised some teams. He'd improved from when he had, his bad seasons. He'd been 6 years as a backup, comes back. Nobody was really sure what he's capable of anymore. But now that they know,
Yeah.
he's looking like the old Geno Smith. There's a reason he was a backup for 6 years.
Rough,
But yeah, man,
honestly.
like I think those are the games of the week. That'll tell me a lot about this NFL season, how it's going to play out. How I feel about my teams and my power rankings. I'd give you a top 10 right now, but it's week 1. It would just be like my preseason top 10 of
Right.
teams that I think are going to win. So I'll still hold Minnesota in high regard and keep my Super Bowl pick to Kansas City, Minnesota, even though both teams lost week 1. Like Baker
Like,
Mayfield and Jared Goff. What am I doing?
like you said,
What
my
am I
friend.
doing,
Week one's a
Evan?
lie, bro. Week one's a lie. Don't pay attention. Wipe it away. Move on.
It's a
Let's move to
lie.
basketball. Let's talk about the Raptors very briefly. Very, very briefly, because last week we had a good breakdown. We had a good discussion about the future and where we think that the organization is going to go and what they can do. And we got no information this week about anything. Everything's just kind of chilling, which, considering that there's a lot going on with the Raptors, could be kind of a good thing that we're not hearing reports of anything. So the only thing that I got this week to add is that it finally came out that the Hawks actually didn't want to give up on Kobe Buffkin in the Siakam trade. And the only reason I'm bringing it up is because it's fine that all of these fans finally get their vindication of, oh, I knew this trade wasn't going to happen because the Hawks didn't want to give up Kobe, blah, blah, blah. Yes, we all knew how much we care about a draft pick and a kid, like calm down, Raptors fans. You're going to be okay. But at this
Like,
point, Siakam's staying. He has to. It doesn't seem like, unless I guess Kobe Buff Kid is the answer and maybe they'll give him up now, like, it's not happening. He's a Raptor for this season.
I think he's going to be a Raptor at least until the trade deadline, and like we'll feel it out at that point. And I think that like Masai has allowed a lot of our pending free agents in Kyle Lowry and last year in Fred VanVleet and like in years prior Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka. He's allowed them to play out the season and then walk. And I don't think with this roster and this middle phase of our rebuild, we can allow that with definitely the most important player on our team other than Scotty, but our most currently established star.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely think that he's here to stay. But the trade, the fact that like Kobe Buffkin was the sticking point is a little weird to me because we could have drafted him if
Mm-hmm.
we really wanted him that bad. And like to trade Siakam, for a draft pick in Kobe, like I think that would have made a lot of Raptors fans upset. So I'm glad it didn't happen. I'm glad the Hawks are so high on Kobe Buffkin. Maybe he has a down year. Maybe we can get him for like Malachi Flynn.
Can we get anything for Malachi Flynn at this rate? Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's
Bruh.
there's not much more to say when it comes to Raps at this point. We laid it out great last week. We're excited for this team. We're looking forward to see what they can do. I did hear reports of potentially the starting lineup with Dennis Schroeder. So I don't know if you've heard this, but a lineup of Dennis, OG, Scotty, Siakam, and Pirtle. That's the rumors that I'm hearing of our starting lineup, which puts, Trent as our main man off the bench. It gives Grady, if he gets his opportunities, to run with Gary on the bench right there. But how would you feel with that? With OG running the two and letting Schroeder be, that technically one, with our wings kind of being the main focus.
Well, I mean, like the guy is coming off the FIBA MVP and a Germany,
Yeah.
gold medal there. So I'm not like too upset about it. I think it actually like gives us a really long lineup that kind of hides Dennis a little bit, which is nice on the defensive end.
Hmm.
And I really like what it does for Gary. I've talked about it before. I think Gary needs to be running the show on the second unit. He can pick on weaker players on the second units of other teams
Yep.
and get in his bag because I think six man of the year, like that should be his goal this year. If I was him, I wouldn't necessarily want to start. I'd want to go for six man. I'd want to be that 20 points off the bench. You're getting consistent minutes. Maybe you don't start the game, but you finish the game.
Yeah.
That kind of player. So yeah, for me, I think that it might really work out. But the nice thing is that it's a pretty fluid situation, and I think Darko's really going to try to get the most out of his lineups and
Yeah.
get the most fluidity for all of his rotations. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see.
I like the
Preseason,
idea
I'm
of
itching.
I like the idea of Gary going for six man. When we're hearing reports that the reason that contract extension might not be happening is because potentially Gary's camp wants more money than the Raptors are willing to give. It's a great opportunity for if the Raptors don't want to give you money, but hey, if you're six man, they might give you money because we want Gary to succeed outside of just being a great player with great players. Because ever since he joined the roster, he plays great with Siakam. He plays good with Fred, But when we let him run the bench and we let him play with Delano and Malachi and he doesn't thrive the way we want him to. So if he can have that season where he can prove that element of his game, right? The fact of the matter is many people believe that Gary won't succeed if he's not surrounded by talent to work with him. Being six man of the year, doing our bench unit with Koloko, with Malachi, with Grady, like the opportunity is there. Take
Precious.
it. Go
Yeah.
for it, right? Like the opportunity is there. Imagine if Precious steps up and becomes the perfect role player for that unit. And Grady can knock down threes. Gary has the ball in his hands. Koloko is the big that everyone wants, a simple, serviceable big who's working behind Pirtle and it can do the job. That bench unit could put in some work. So I like that thought of him going for six man because I mean rosters out there will look at a guy who wins six man of the year and go, I'll pay him money. Oh yeah. Because if he's going to do that as a 6 man on that team, he can be great on my team. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, absolutely, man. I mean, like you look at Bruce Brown, for the Denver Nuggets, that man got paid.
Yep.
And like Bruce Brown's good. Like but I definitely take Gary Trent over him. Like, last year and like even right now, I know he won a championship and recency bias, and people would probably be like, "Oh, you're nuts," but
Yeah.
no, man, it's just sample size. And I think like this is the first year in a really long time where the bench is going to get extended looks.
Yeah.
I think Darko's really, really set on that, on making sure that, we have at least 10, 11 guys throughout the season that feel like they're going to contribute to the season. And
Yeah.
like the postseason is a different thing if we get there. Obviously, rotations get, put down. You're playing the same team every day. You know their tendencies. Starters play 40 plus minutes for the season. I would love to see Siakam, around 36 minutes a game, 35 minutes a game,
I'd love 34
and
personally.
guys just, getting good time. So hopefully that's the key here.
I'm looking forward to a bench mob sub in. How often in the last Nick Nurse era have we seen a 5 player sub? I'm
Oh,
serious.
never,
Like sure when
never.
games are over and we're putting the 11 through 15 in. Like I honestly cannot rack my brain at a time when we had a full 5 bench unit come in under Nick Nurse and replace our starters. It's always been here, there,
Yeah.
little things, and I could see Darko being like, yeah, let's do it. Boom. And letting these guys go off and having a moment. And then putting in a guy here, putting in a guy there. Like, that's the beauty of it, right? The potential is there. And, oh, I'm excited. I'm just looking forward to it. That's all I really want, man. I want Raptors basketball.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I mean, I think like you think about Freddie and like what he averaged like 38 minutes a game last year or something like that.
Easily.
And like if Ime can get him down to like 31 on the Houston Rockets, I bet you he puts up more points
Yeah.
and more assists and is more efficient and is healthier throughout the season. And so like that's just what I want for our guys. I want that ability to, have them get more rest, have them have a longer leash. They're not worn down every single day.
Yeah.
And that'd be super nice for our roster.
Let's keep the championship pedigree, but let's let it sit on the back burner a little bit and let's focus on getting ourselves back to playoff pedigree, playoff contention at this point in time. And I feel like Darko's got a pretty clean slate and is going to have the opportunity to not have to obsessively worry about being the best of the best of the best, sir, right off the bat. Like there's hope
Yeah.
that the guys can come in and miss a couple of shots and not feel like their lives are over.
Siakam's the last guy really from our championship team. I know OG was on the roster, but the appendectomy kept him out.
Yeah,
So, like this championship pedigree that like we like to, say we won a championship recently, like that's all fine and good, but these guys haven't. A lot of
yeah,
the guys on our team, they've never experienced that. They've never experienced playoff success. Like the most playoff success they had was pushing to a game 6 against Philadelphia.
yeah,
So I'd really like to see them rebuild from the ground up and just kind of scrap the idea that it's championship or bust. And I think that's what we did, especially with getting rid of Nick Nurse, because Nick Nurse was definitely like I'm a championship coach. I won a championship my first year. I can do it again. It's like
yeah.
you don't have the same roster, bro. You don't have Kawhi, and even if we did, Kawhi play every 5 games, every 6 games.
So true. So
I
yeah,
mean, he might have to play more this season.
that's the thing, right? There's tons of new NBA changes. I'm happy with Raptors chat. We can move into the world. I think we can flow right into that. Let's talk about those changes. Let's talk about how the NBA wants its star players, wants its product on the court, so people can enjoy it, so money can be made. I'm
Yeah, man.
of two ways when it comes to these changes because I do like the concepts that people play, blah blah blah. We avoid the whole tanking and avoid the whole people are sitting to make sure they're ready for the playoffs. Basketball is basketball. Let's play the game. The other side of the coin is the way the wording comes out is it's just like they're just products. The stars have to play. It's taking away the human aspect of these players, and I get it. There is a problem in the NBA right now with star players sitting out, resting, missing games here and there. People joke about Joel Embiid ducking Jokic and not playing him. Like there's so many different ways that these stories get put out, and at the end of the day, if this means that more basketball will be played and good basketball will be played, it's a win. So hey, we'll see.
yeah, I get that whole like they're a product, but like at the end of the day, man, like they are. I mean,
Yeah,
that's why they make, 40, 50, 60 million dollars a year. I mean, you think about Tyrese Halliburton, Anthony Edwards, and LaMelo Ball, like those guys have never done anything in their careers to warrant being the top paid players in the sport.
yeah,
And they are, right? Just because they're coming off the rookie scale extension, just because of the amount that people watch the NBA.
yeah.
The number of people out there that watch the NBA is so massive that these guys earn so much money. And so they are a product, right? Like it at the end of the day, it's sad to say, but it's
Oh yeah.
true. And I like the rules around the star players. I like their definition of the star player, has to be within 3 seasons of this season,
Hmm.
and they have been an all-star or an all NBA player. I like that. I like that the fact that they, thought about guys who have extensive injury history. So maybe a guy like Kawhi qualifies for that. Maybe a guy like Joel Embiid qualifies for that because
Hmm.
he, at the beginning of his career, missed a lot of time, right? I wonder, like, what the fine print says about like the length between those injuries. Like, have
Yeah,
you been
that's
a healthy
interesting
player
thought.
recently or later? And or like a guy like, LeBron James, he's got the leeway to rest because
Yeah.
he's accumulated, 34,000 minutes
Yeah.
of NBA regular season and 1,000 regular season and playoff games. So like, yeah, he's earned that right to take it off.
Yeah.
So that to me is really the key of it all. Because when you have star players who can just sit out whenever they want, who
Hmm.
can demand trades or say that they're not going to honor their contract, like fans pour their heart and soul into their teams. I mean,
Yep.
fanatics is the word. And I think like even this week, if anybody's watching Winning Time, that moment where Kareem realizes because he hated fans for so long
Yep.
because of the way that they treated him and like treated black athletes back in the day, but realizing that like they touch these people's lives,
Yeah.
like and like being like we have to give it all for them. Like, I think it's huge, man, and I think that I applaud the NBA for making this choice to implement it and to force their players to play because again, it's like it's a joke that Kawhi makes the kind of money he makes and only has to play 30 games a year.
True.
When like, is his knee hurt? Is it not hurt? Is it a degenerative thing? I mean, like you could be like Carey Price, He came out this past week and said like, barring a miracle, I'm never gonna play again. I go play a softball game, with my buddies, and I'm sore for a week. My
Yeah.
knee hurts so bad. So like at least he's honest about it, and he's like,
Hmm.
"Look, I'll put me on IR for the rest of my career. I'm done. I'm not retiring because I want that money," which is totally fine here in the contract. And if
If you sign
Kawhi
a
wanted that,
contract,
don't
you get your
yeah,
money for that
don't
contract.
keep holding the Clippers over a barrel,
Yeah.
like and being like, "I'll play like some games. I'll definitely be ready for the playoffs." Like, no, you won't. Don't like either it's degenerative or you're gonna get
Hmm.
healthy. Pick one. Sorry, that's just my
No, no, no,
words.
and I'm glad you went that direction because I want to look at the other side of it, right? I'm thinking about the Luca incident at the end of last season, where he goes out, has a possession, fouls, and then leaves the game. And that was
Yeah.
their solution because Luca was pissed and he wanted to play, he wanted to do this, but they were trying to tank, they're trying to get draft picks, they're trying to make their team better. Business side of things, I get it, but I'm interested to see how these rules will affect those moments, right? Because this is allowed. I think this contract allows Luca to basically tell Mark Cuban, he can shove it. I'm going to play. The rules say I got to play. I'm healthy. I got to have a star out here. You got any other stars on this team, bro? Like, you know what I mean? Like that's the really interesting part of it that I think that is worth bringing up and talking about because will this enable a guy like Luca to get to play his games that he wants to? Like, it's interesting.
Yeah, and I think like the NBA has some like kind of rules around like if you're a one-star team or a two-star team, like it's specifically going to impact 25 teams. So there are 6 teams like the Raptors
Hmm.
who don't qualify for 2 players. Like you have to have one of the 2 players playing. And I like how they like target if a player's going to sit out like one of 2 games, they have to sit out the home game as opposed to the away game
I like
because
that.
your fans see you more often. Like
Exactly.
that kid who, like take me for example, if I went to a Milwaukee Bucks game here in Toronto and paid, hundreds of dollars for those tickets to sit in the lower bowl and to see Giannis play, who's one of my all-time favorite players,
Yep.
and he didn't play, like that's devastating for me. That's devastating for all the little kids and people who wanted to see him play.
Yep.
And so Milwaukee fans, you have 41 chances to see him. I got two, maybe one,
Yeah.
you know? And so yeah, it's just like keeping LeBron out there. So I like that. I
I
like that.
think that when you break it apart and you look at it, they've done a good job. The NBA really has done a good job of making it happen, and so we'll be interested to see, which of the team owners, which of this player or that player comes out and rips on him, because there's always, once the media starts beginning again and everyone gets access to the players, they'll start making comments again here and there. So we'll see who likes it, we'll see who doesn't like it, but at the end of the day, star players playing the game that they're paid to play, I'm for it.
All right, man. Do you want to get into some of the craziness that is the NBA news cycle? I'd prefer to start with the Kai Jones losing his mind on shrooms because that stuff is just funny, man.
It's wild.
What was
Shrooms,
your interpretation of that video?
whatever it was, the guy was losing. And like the craziest part for me is that like I came across it when it was live. Like I was just on my computer browsing and then this just pops in my feed and I'm watching this video and I'm thinking to myself, there's no way. There's no way that this guy is live streaming right now. There is no way that he is that off his rocker and thinks that this is a good idea. And then less than 24 hours later,
Bruh,
the entire
bruh.
Charlotte Hornets team unfollows him on all social media. And now he's going off on Twitter saying all the wildest things, having an emoji game that would make LeBron be put to shame. Like
Man loves rainbow and number one and goat
I,
emojis.
I'm reading where people are like, is he having a manic episode? Like, is he that far gone at this point in time? Because it's kind of crazy,
Well,
Matt. It's kind of crazy.
people say shrooms like you can get lost on them forever. So like maybe he took one too many shrooms and is just down that
Who
hole, like
knows?
which would be super sad, and like crazy. But yeah, man, I like, and that's the thing about like these athletes that we also have to remember is like they are young guys who
Yep.
have more money than they know how to spend, and sometimes they make poor decisions and that's
Well,
definitely an interesting decision. I would call it poor.
yeah.
But hopefully he's okay. Hopefully he comes back. Hopefully he is on an NBA team. Because like honestly, like I don't feel too strongly about him, living in his own world and doing his own thing during the off season because he's not
Yeah.
hurting anybody.
Yeah.
Like he's not, Kevin Porter Jr. So
I it shames me that I have a similar name to that
hard to
guy.
touch
I'm
that one.
glad that we have a different letter. I'll say that. But man, what can we even say about this incident? To the people that know, it's disgusting. It's insane the reports that we're hearing out of it. We've had the Miles Bridges situation, which we ripped on that guy, and this isn't even close, right? Comparatively, from what I've heard, like so,
Yeah.
we'll see what happens, but kid's got to be out of the league. Kids like the Rockets are like, hey, we'll give you multiple first round draft picks. Nobody better bite on that. No team better bite on that at all.
No, just buy this kid out. Like, just send him out of the league. I don't know. Like, yeah, the NBA should terminate his contract or something. Like, it's brutal, and especially when like you think about the Miles Bridges thing, and the fact that like he served most of his suspension is only going to miss like a handful of games when he comes back now. Like, it's just the NBA. Like, you guys are a role model league.
Yeah.
A lot of kids look up to you. You can see it in AAU basketball, man. When you watch those clips, the flexing, the taunting, that they don't learn that from their
No.
parents. They learn that from the NBA. And so if you put out players that do this kind of stuff, like that's not okay. And like it's just yeah, man, it makes your stomach twist. Like
Yeah.
just
Absolutely.
just kind of gross. Just
Absolutely.
kind
So let's move on. I think we got the negativity out of the way. Let's talk about some hope. Some hope for Raptors fans. More Giannis comments. More Giannis talking about how, hey, maybe I don't want to be in here. Oh man, Matt. Yeah, exactly. That's the vibes that we're feeling right now. Let's hope, right? Let's hope for
bro,
Giannis.
bro. Yeah, I pray for Giannis. Yeah, we just talked about him, man. You like he's a Milwaukee Buck now. He wants to win a Larry B trophy with the Milwaukee Bucks, but if there's a better situation for him out there, he's gonna go take it. And I think honestly, he should have realized this, at his last contract because we would have been the perfect spot for him. Siakam as his sidekick. We had OG already on the team.
Yep.
Like it would have been perfection. But you know what? If we get an older Giannis who's still dominant, I'll take it. I'll take it all day, every day. If we get like the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Lakers run
That's what I'm
as a
saying.
Raptor
That's what I'm
for
saying.
Giannis,
I made those comments last week that
I'm in.
it's crazy to think that the one ring with Milwaukee might be, the Oscar Robertson ring, the
It's
Kareem
Kareem.
ring, the situation where fans will be like, what did we let get away? And does it come back to just Budenholzer? Do we just have to talk about Budenholzer? It's been a while. We haven't talked about Mike for a while, but like
They
that
fired him.
team, they did, but it was a couple years too late. Honestly, that team just kind of existed, right? And in this day and age, with the NBA that exists how it is, with the talent that is out there, it just goes to show that you only need a couple pieces. The Nuggets proved it by picking up Aaron Gordon, right? The perfect role player to come into their system, and then finding Bruce Brown, finding these little pieces here or there.
Yeah.
That moment with Giannis on top was a brief moment, but he's still a stud. He's still a monster. He still potentially is the best player in the NBA day in day out if he wants to be. And yeah, it's kind of crazy that he's still making these comments. And so yeah, we're listening. My ears, I'm always listening, Giannis. We're open for you for sure.
Yeah, and it goes back to your Bud thing, man. Like I think that as an owner of a any sports franchise, when you have a star player like that, when you have a guy who is easily consensus top three player at his sport,
Yep.
when your team, especially in a sport like basketball, where an individual makes a huge difference. Like, it's different in the NFL. It's different in if you're not a quarterback, it's different in NHL because like there's so many guys who play and you have to play so many shifts. When you have a player like that and you aren't successful, or you are successful to a degree in the regular season but can't
Yeah.
get past the hump in the playoffs, I think you have to hold your coach to a higher standard
Yep.
because a guy like, you literally pick a guy off the street, Nick Nurse, and I know Nick Nurse paid his dues around the league and G League, Europe, all that kind of stuff, but literally gave him Kawhi,
Yep.
gave him a solid roster, and he was able to put together a championship. That should have been able to happen with Giannis multiple times. They've had solid rosters,
Mm-hmm.
and it's always felt like Bud has been the sticking point. And I think like you look at the Lakers, right? They have LeBron, they have Anthony Davis. They were a great team. They won a championship under Frank Vogel. Frank wasn't getting the job done. They go with Darvin Ham, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's not going to make a big difference." Darvin Ham, like, what he made a huge difference, man. He
Yeah.
got them to play as a team. He got them to buy in on defense.
Yep.
Like it changed the culture around that team and gave them the opportunity to, make a deep playoff run this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, when you have that player, like you have to hold them to a standard, and it goes back to Bud. Like it's kind of sad because I'm like rooting for Adrian Griffin
Yeah.
and I want him to succeed, but like I also really want Giannis on the Raptors.
True. Very true. It's a tough situation as well, and it's funny because like Budenholzer wasn't Giannis's coach. He wasn't happy with that decision when the roster made that move. I mean, he still stands by Kid to this day, I believe. I mean, in interviews
Yeah,
to this day, he'll still talk about how he's a genius and all of these things. And like, can you imagine if they don't win that championship and then they have years of not firing Bud and Giannis is sitting there stewing, steaming, just absolutely upset because again, yeah, at the end of the day, you can have a superstar who can play X amount of minutes, you can put up the points that they can play, but the coach gets the team to the championship. Look at what Pat Riley can do. Look at what some of the greatest coaches in the history of any major sports league have been able to do. The guys respond. The boys listen. And yeah, we hope for Adrian Griffin, but it's a tough time in Milwaukee, that's for sure.
no, man, absolutely. There's a galvanizing factor, right? And so it just kind of happens. I mean, Boost Boudreaux was a great coach for so many years behind those Washington benches with those dynamic teams. They get Barry Torts in there, instantly win a cup. You know, just puts it together because some coaches just have it like that, and some
Push
don't.
the right
And
buttons, like yeah.
yeah, absolutely, man. So we'll see. Fingers crossed though that he still ends up as a Raptor.
All right, last thing for me this week, a really interesting comment coming at the end of this FIBA tournament. There's two parts of this that I want to talk about. The first part is scummy reporters, so I'm gonna get that out of the way really really importantly. So the rumor is that Anthony Edwards was going down. This was like apparently game 3 or 4 of the tournament, so this was like weeks ago.
Mhm.
They just like slap whichever team they slap, blah blah blah. He's going down lane, and some reporter goes, Anthony, who would you rather trade, Gobert or Towns? And he like doesn't really want to like acknowledge it. He's kind of like going off. And then he turns back and he says, neither one. I love those guys. They're my brothers. I wouldn't trade neither of them. So the first part of this conversation, the scummy reporters, how are these questions allowed? How is it okay that they're allowed to just ask questions that are specific? And like, I understand like there's tons of different things, but the idea of asking a question to elicit a response, to get a negative reaction, to get a clip, to get something popular, like, yeah, I know that's how internet culture is these days, but like,
Yeah,
man,
bro.
it's like an egregious type of question in my opinion, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, like it's on it's a fair one, man. The media's talking about it. That he just wants to see Anthony Edwards, reaction and answer.
Oh yeah.
Uh, I think that like Anthony probably handled that as best as he could, trying to ignore him and then giving that kind of a comment.
Yep.
Uh, I don't love that like he's like just yelling at him like while they're walking down the tunnel, like
Mm-hmm.
ask him at the presser or whatever, like and that could be one of your questions, but it'd be weird at a FIBA presser. So he's like limited access. He's just trying to get it, so I can
Yeah.
understand the side of it. But man, I think Anthony handled that really well, which to me is really impressive because
Yeah.
I think something that's been really missing from Anthony Edwards, the basketball player, is that maturity factor because like the guy's got all the talent in the world. Like people
Yeah.
are comparing him to Michael Jordan for a reason. Um, and he was great at FIBA, not great enough to be Canada because Dylan Brooks, man, went off
Yeah. There.
wild. Gotta love that. I don't know if we brought that up, but Canada medaling FIBA, let's go.
It's true.
First
It's
time
true.
ever, we're going to the Olympics, Paris. We hype about it. RJ Barrett, following his father's footsteps. I like how he was talking about Rowan Barrett, RJ's dad, was talking about how Andrew Wiggins might not even be able to make the team because he couldn't commit to the core summer, and they got somebody at his position who's pretty darn good in Dylan Brooks.
Yeah.
So 39 points in a and see, like, this is why I truly believe in Dylan Brooks, and I hated that the media killed him last summer
Yeah.
when he poked the bear. And then, like, granted, stupid move. You poked the best player in NBA history. Like,
It looks like
but
he just
like,
did it
take
again.
some take some cojones to do that.
Yeah, looks like he did it again because
Earn that.
LeBron's trying to get the gang together to go play at the Olympics. So it looks like Dylan Brooks poked the bear again. But yeah, shout out to 39 point. I may have heard a rumor that it was the most points out of FIBA tournament in like a while for a
Oh,
single player. I don't know. I don't know
I
the full
didn't know
reports
that.
of that, but hey, shout out to that man. Yeah, we didn't bring
Was he
that up.
like 8 of 9 from deep or
That was
7 of 8?
crazy.
Like he was, yeah,
Yeah.
one miss. The man was on fire, and that's who
Yeah.
he is. He's streaky like
Mhm.
that. Like he's yeah, and an excellent defender.
And
Absolutely excellent
and
defender.
this is the beauty of this FIBA tournament, right? You get to see certain guys really get things to take out of it. We mentioned Dennis and his MVP, how this could really affect him going into the season. And to bring it back to Ant really quickly, like that maturity, I think Ant grew up this summer. I think getting to this team, the earlier comments of Steve Kerr being like, D Wade took a time being on the bench when they had a Kobe. He was saying that to him, and Ant was like, yeah, this team ain't got no Kobe though.
Okay.
I'm the Kobe, right? Like I think that he's had a really strong developmental moment that has happened in this FIBA tournament. And I'm really high on Ant going into the summer. I mean, Matt knows I've always been high on Anthony Edwards. He was my pick for sure. But
Yeah,
I think that the Wolves are his team now officially. I think that
fully.
Towns is going to be getting on the back burner at this point. I think Ant-Man's going to come in and I think he's going to have an absolutely banger of a season.
Well, I think like they should really trade and or Carl Anthony Towns because like
Probably.
at the end of the day, like you can play with Gobert and you're gonna get so much more for or for Carl Anthony Towns than you are
Yep.
for Gobert at this point. So that's I
And
think the key to me.
yep. Well, and
But
also
yeah,
to Gobert's sake, I'm not a Gobert fan. I've ripped on Gobert a lot, but the amount of times I see reports of this guy shouldn't even be in a Hall of Fame conversation, I'm like, he's a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. Okay, he's great in his own way. Don't knock him down. Let him have it.
Yeah.
So,
They just like got him past his prime and they ended up trading like the next future like big man who could potentially have a defensive Hall of Fame career in Walker Kessler. Like and like that's the risk that you play. Like
yep,
you draft these kids and you have no idea how they'll turn out, right? Like you think the Detroit Pistons thought that Carmelo Anthony was going to be better than Dario Saric.
right.
No, they picked him because they truly believed that they were going to hit a home run. And so and they were convinced. So it is what it is, man. Like
That's it's the beauty of it.
it's just an interesting world we live in, you know?
We do,
People
and
in
we've
retrospect.
we've got an interesting future ahead of us. Couple of weeks. We're waiting for basketball. We're gonna watch the football season go. I know Matt's just itching for hockey. We're
Bro.
in that timeline. We're just waiting. We're just
Rookie
waiting.
tournament tonight, buddy. Rookie
Oh,
tournament. My Montreal Canadiens, David Reinbacher. Gonna see that kid.
okay.
Kid already grew almost a full inch and gained 15 pounds. Kid's gonna be a monster.
There you
He's gonna
go.
be a monster.
Oh, I've seen all my,
Stop gossiping
I've
back, my boys.
seen all my ski racers after a whole summer, and like one or two of them are taller than me, and I'm like, you are 13 years old. Stop growing. This is not okay. Not allowed. So I feel that.
Oh, it is what it is, man. All right. I think I'm gonna call tonight's game. It's
Okay.
about to start here, and I'm thinking Vikings over Eagles. I'm really nervous about it, but I think that's the play. I think Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson,
There you
and
go.
those boys get the Eagles because the Eagles are 1-0, and even though they didn't play well last week, I think they're gonna be still like kind of resting on it that their secondary was not good. And I think Jordan Addison, the kid that they drafted, and Justin Jefferson are going to have a day. So
Okay.
hopefully I'm right. Who knows,
All right. Now, over here, last week was easy, too easy for me getting a nice W. So this week I threw a dart at the board. I spun the score app and I ended up on Monday Night Football and I got the Saints and the Panthers game. And the Saints showed up before the Panthers, so we're going to say the Saints are going to win this game. That's my prediction.
bro?
Easy.
Easy call. Easy call. The Saints should dominate them. If they don't, I'll be very shocked. But I've been pretty wrong so far this NFL season, so I ain't
Hey,
helpful.
the curse is just slapping you down early, okay? It's getting out of the way, so maybe the when we come to
Maybe
actual
my
football
basketball
takes,
season or basketball
maybe.
season,
Look, Curse, you can make
my bread
all
and
of our
butter.
takes wrong for the next 2 years if we end up with Giannis. I will let that be spoken into existence, okay?
Whoa, buddy. You just threw us under the bus. Jesus. Don't
All
listen to him,
right.
Curse. I ain't okay with it.
All right. Anything else, my friend?
No, man, you're good to wrap this up.
All right. Beautiful. Well, thanks everybody for being here. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Board Sports. Like, subscribe, give us that thumbs up. Check out theboardsports.net for new episodes and blog posts.
And we'll talk to you next time.